First, we are going to start with a video that I've been working with the nice folks at K-State on creating. It features Christina at K-State, and so I'm going to play that for you first.
They're going to talk about graduate school. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're just talking about graduate school.
Washburn, could you mute your microphone, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, here we go.
KINBRE is a program to develop, but the aspect that we're interested in today is the development of undergraduate students and their participation in research.
The types of research that I have conducted through K-INBRE, it's been in vitro, and I actually did a little bit of in vivo work. So I worked with tissue culture, so I worked on just growing cells in our lab and then studying them with a compound to see the compound's effects. I was also able to use this compound in an in vivo model or a mouse model to study its effects, and hopefully we'll have positive results in the future.
The student-mentor relationship is really very, very important. They understand lots more about the student, and that personal interaction helps develop the professional interaction.
Dr. Witt has always been very encouraging in me expanding all of my knowledge and everything, and then using all of the resources from K-INBRE to help learn more.
Christina is just a perfect example for my lab. I am so pleased to see her grown for the past 3 years and achieve what she has done that I could never imagine.
I'm working on a compound currently with colorectal cancer. It's going to be several years, but it has the potential to become a great chemotherapeutic drug to hopefully enhance the effectiveness of other drugs. I mean, it's a great feeling knowing that maybe my work now will help someone in the future overcome cancer. The opportunities that K-INBRE has given me have been things like meetings. There's always another symposium in either Kansas City or somewhere around in Kansas every year that we can go to and discuss our research with multiple students and faculty. There's also meetings every month that you discuss it with faculty. I've been to DC twice for doing this at a national conference. Also, it's given me funding for my master's program.
K-INBRE gave her so much more than what she ever imagined that she can do with just a bachelor in microbiology and now a master in pathobiology.
For any future students that are looking at this program, I would say do it. If you are extremely interested in finding out the way things work, in improving knowledge of the biomedical field in order to enhance your experience in the future and other people's, you should definitely do this. It's just a great program for learning and for expanding who you are and what you want to do.
Hey guys, this is Haskell. Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, we could not see the video over here. We could see people in rooms sitting. I can see you right now, Sarah, but we could not see the video over here. I'm not sure.
How about everybody else? Well, that's okay. The video is going to be posted on our website as soon as K-State gets the final editing done, so you can show it to all your students.
Okay,
and,
thanks.
you know, as soon as I get that posted. Yep. What? Can you see us now? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can everybody see us?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what we're doing today is that was a video featuring Christina, who's at K-State. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to have, we have some students here at, we're actually in Wichita, KU Med Wichita, and we have a student at KU Med Kansas City, and then we have, and that's Ethan, and then we have a student, like I said, at K-State, Christina, and they're all graduate students, in some way or another, and this is the opportunity for all you undergraduate students to ask them questions about grad school and about K-INBRE as an undergraduate and how it's helped them to achieve some of their goals. So what I'm going to do first is have them all introduce themselves and what programs they're in, and then we'll take any questions that you have. So first, let's start with Ethan.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Ethan Deckert. I went to Emporia State University and spent about a year and a half in the K-INBRE program at Emporia State. My major was biochemistry and molecular biology. I'm now an M1 medical student at KU Med in Kansas, on the Kansas City campus.
Christina, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Christina Bigelow. I've been at K-State for 6 years. I think 3 of those years I was in K-INBRE, and now I'm a master's student in biomedical science.
Now it's your turn.
Hi, I'm Jen Schroeder. I went to Emporia State University and I was a K-INBRE student for about 2 years. I'm now at the University of Kansas on the medical school in the Wichita campus, and I'm in public health in my final year.
Hi, my name is Timothy Eberl. I'm currently a student at Wichita State University. I'm in my 2nd year of grad school with a focus on just general biology, but I specialize in microbiology and molecular biology.
I'm Catherine Kirchie. I'm a 2nd year medical student down here in Wichita, and I went to WSU, was in the K-INBRE program for 1 year.
I'm Joe Slider. I'm also a 2nd year medical student in Wichita, and I went to Emporia State, and I was in the K-INBRE program for a year and a half, 2 years.
So as you can see, we have a mix of some medical students and public health and biology and kind of a mix of things. So if you have any questions for them, now's the time to kind of pick their brains about how K-INBRE helped them get where they are, and then what they're doing now and what their plans are for the future. Does anybody have any questions?
I do back here. I guess the main question is what made you choose to was it something that you liked? Was it job security, or was it just a mixture of both?
Could you repeat the question again? Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Exactly what going to grad school as a career. I mean, was it job security? Was it a mixture of job security and your life, or was it just something you felt like you needed to do?
So I guess the question is, why did you pick the career path that you're going on? So anybody want to jump in and talk about that?
I guess I will. As an undergraduate, I really wanted to focus on how to fix things small ways. I was a microbiology major, and I wanted to look at the small picture. And then in graduate school, I'm in the School of Public Health, and that's focusing on a larger picture of things. And I ultimately want to go and work in a public health laboratory research facility, so it'll bridge together small ideas with focusing on community health and larger population pictures. So that's kind of why I chose this direction.
Other responses?
Well, for the master's, I wanted to complete my project. It was just fascinating to me, and I wanted to be able to get a complete picture. But also, I wanted the background of master's to give me a more in-depth view into research. And so my goals for the future is I actually want, I'm trying to get into medical school right now, and I would like to go into translational research, so clinical trials and different things. But yeah.
Christina, could you explain what you mean by translational research in case some of the undergraduate students don't know?
translational research is more taking, your basic lab research and you're more applying it to an actual clinical setting. One of the main ways I know to explain translational research would be like clinical trials. So having some people test out different treatments in the lab, but then normally it's treatments that are already available on the market in different types of cancer. So maybe a breast cancer treatment that you're trying on colorectal cancer, or different ways. But first you need to test them in the lab and then implement them into the clinic.
Ethan, could you tell us why you've chosen what you're doing?
Sure. Well, I actually, to kind of incorporate K-INBRE into my decision, I wasn't entirely sure that I didn't want to do a PhD program when I was finishing up at Emporia State, and K-INBRE was a really good experience for me in that it helped me decide exactly what I wanted to do. I'd done some mission trips during my undergrad career, some overseas missions and some kind of in the country, and those really gave me a passion for kind of being able to help underserved areas. I thought that was just a really great experience for me, and I enjoyed it. But I also loved science. I was kind of nerdy. A lot of you guys probably know about that, but I really loved science, and I thought maybe I might be interested in doing a PhD rather than medical school, and I wasn't sure. But doing K-INBRE it showed me the laboratory side of things, and while I enjoyed my experiences, I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and so that kind of helped show me that the MD path was more what I was interested in. And those undergraduate experiences, if you can do extracurricular things like that, mission trips, or even if it's just shadowing lots of docs and stuff to get the idea for what you actually do want to do. And then K-INBRE kind of helped me decide between research and more of a clinical setting. So.
Okay. So I knew I wanted to go into medical school, and I knew I wanted to be a clinician. And when I was finishing up my degree, I had a couple of choices for my degree as far as what I wanted to do, and research was one of them. And I really enjoyed what one of my professors was working on. And I wanted to get a feel for what actually takes place with research. It's easy to look at a paper and you don't really get an appreciation behind the techniques and what all it takes, and the different kind of brainstorming that they do to be able to come up with different ways of doing research. So it was just giving me a way to understand exactly what they do, and I'll tell you, it's actually quite helpful in medical school because you understand what the diagnostic test actually utilizes in a laboratory setting. So I did work with immunohistochemistry, and now I understand it, and it comes up in every single module. So I knew I didn't want to do research, but I'll tell you what I did do with my research was really helpful for what I wanted to do.
Me personally, I feel kind of like the odd man out here because I'm not on the MD path, but one of the things that KINBRE did for me was made me realize my passion for research, and that's something that I'd like to continue after I finish my master's as well as my PhD. And KINBRE has also given me a little bit of drive towards becoming a teacher, which is what I actually do now. I'm a graduate teaching assistant here at Wichita State, and I've been offered a couple of adjunct positions around the city here. And being involved with KINBRE and seeing how well the faculty do with getting students involved with that has really pushed me towards heading that route. So that's one of the advantages that I've noticed being in this program.
And I guess I'm actually just going to kind of add on to what Catherine said, and that because I, like her, knew I wanted to go to medical school and wanted to be a doctor, and knew that the research was not really a path that I wanted to take. But the experience of doing K-INBRE and having working on a project and practicing just reading reading the literature and looking at the statistics, I mean, It really helped me. I mean, the stuff that I learned I still use almost every day, even now, just interpreting data and that kind of thing. And so I think it was really, really a helpful experience.
Do we have any other questions?
Okay, I have a question from Kansas State. This is specifically for Jen, who is the Master's of Public Health. Did you do anything other than K-INBRE, like summer scholarships, like any governmental agencies to get yourself prepared to be in the Master's of Public Health, or did you just K-INBRE?
I did just K-INBRE, but now I graduate in May, and I'm actually applying for a fellowship through the CDC and a public health laboratory to work with them for a year, and that's what's going to help me drive to what I want to be. I haven't decided fully if I want to get my PhD or if I want to go work in a public health laboratory. Either way, I feel like this fellowship will help me steer on my path to what's calling. I kind of fell into public health, as some of my professors call it, but I've really turned out to love it just because it kind of breaks up into looking at someone as an individual but looking at a population. How can I help this population in the most successful way to keep them healthy? I mean, that's, I feel like, everyone's main goal. And as an undergrad, I thought I wanted to go into medicine, but I found out I was totally wrong. It was not a passion of mine, it was a passion of what my peers wanted, and I wanted to be like them. But upon branching out and choosing this public health master's program, really kind of helped me find my identity, and this is what I want to do, not what other people want me to do. I mean, it was the best fit for me.
Do you have any advice on what undergraduates can do to help better their resume for getting into the Masters of Public Health?
Just basically don't stay focused on one thing. Like, I know as an undergraduate I was super focused on just medicine types of things, getting into medical school, but I found that as I branched out, I did things like Ethan did. I went on mission trips, I've traveled other places, I've kind of seen population disparities or underserved people, and that's where I found that I was most passionate about, was seeing underserved people. I volunteered a lot, I kind of got into, I work in a pharmacy, I kind of stuck my feet into like many different waters. I tried not to stay focused on one thing. I wanted to try and experience a little bit of everything to help me be a better rounded person. And in the public health profession, they kind of want someone who's a jack of all trades. They don't want you just to focus on one thing. They want you to kind of really kind of see the big picture in life.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, this is Pittsburgh State. I have a question for the students who are interested in research. How are they going to make the decision? Are they going to pursue master's degree or PhD degree?
That's actually a really good question. And actually being a part of the K-INBRE program it really helps you kind of think about what path you want to take in your career for your future. And for me personally, I would absolutely love to go PhD track. And the real reason that I chose to stay with the master's to begin with was because I hadn't really decided what I wanted to focus on as my career later on. I knew I wanted to be involved with research, but like I said before, I discovered while I was in the program that I had an aptitude for teaching, and so that just made it much more important for me to head to the PhD track so I can become a professor and pass the knowledge that I have on to other students. So that's kind of where this program has really come in handy for me. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, and this was probably a little more relevant earlier, but one of the things that being in the K-INBRE program does is it gives students experience in doing presentations, poster sessions like we do at the symposium every year. It's very laid back at the symposium, but it gives you a lot of confidence, which will really help you later on, especially if you're going to med school and you have to do all those interviews to get in. or you want to apply for scholarships later on or fellowships in your master's programs. So the program is very beneficial in that way.
Yeah, I would agree. The K-INBRE program gave me a lot of, I wouldn't call them job skills, I think of them as life skills. I'm a better speaker, I portray my thoughts and my ideas better because of K-INBRE. I mean, yeah, I did a research project and I had a lot of success with it, but going into like my master's program in public health, it's a lot of speaking, doing presentations, writing papers, and K-INBRE really helped me do that. Just basically, just the whole step of like writing a research project, you have to do the literature background, you need to write a proposal, you need to follow through with your study design. K-INBRE really helped me out in that field. And as with the research question, following with what Tim said, as an undergraduate, I really wasn't sure where I wanted to go. I mean, I thought I wanted to go into medicine, like I just said earlier, but I decided to continue on with the master's program, and that's where I've really kind of found that I want to go into research. I want to combine what I've learned in my master's program along with my undergraduate, and whether that's finding a career in a laboratory or continuing on with a PhD, I'm not 100% certain on where that's going, but I've found as I continue on with my education that that's where the direction I want to go, and K-INBRE has kind of helped me out with deciding it.
And I wanted to add one more thing. In deciding whether you want to do a master's or PhD track, the members of KINBRE actually really help you to decide which one would be the best for you. I've spoken to Sarah and Hayata and Jan multiple times. I'm sure they're getting tired of my emails. But I've sent them questions and they've given me opinions, and that's really helped me to decide where I wanted to go. And you know, there's nothing wrong with doing masters before PhD, and there's nothing wrong with doing PhD and not masters. But one thing that I've figured out is during my master's program, I have 2 years to figure out where I want to go from here. So don't discount doing the master's before the PhD. I see that a lot, especially at my college. But you know, don't discount those 2 extra years. I know it's more money to spend on your education, but I think it's really worth it to give you that time to decide where you're going to go from here. So
thank you for your answers. I actually have a follow-up questions. Is that possible you guys can tell us a little about the financial assistance available for master programs? Thanks.
Yeah, actually, there is a number of fellowships available, and it really kind of depends on what college you're looking at going to, whether it be a master's program or a PhD program. But there's a number of fellowships that you can apply for. Especially, and another thing, if you apply for financial aid, whether it be through the college or through the FAFSA program with the government, there are a number of low interest loans that you can get. I know a lot of people don't want to take loans during their education, but it's there if you need it. But really, for the master's program, fellowships are the best way to go. And again, like I said before, being involved with the K-INBRE program and doing the presentations and the poster sessions like we do at the symposium, that really helps you get the experience you need in case you have to do an interview or you need to write up a proposal for the fellowship. Which I guarantee a few of the fellowships that you apply for are going to require that. So, and again, it looks good on the resume that you're able to do that. So, you know, I can't say that funding is 100%, but there's a lot of opportunities out there for students that are interested in pursuing a career in research. So,
I would also say that funding also depends on which college you go to. I know here at the School of Public Health in Wichita, we don't have graduate teaching assistants because our campus is a lot smaller than the Kansas City campus where they have graduate teaching assistants. Here we have graduate research assistants, but we also offer other scholarships focused just for MPH students here at the Wichita campus. My entering class was 7 people, and if they offer scholarships, I mean, you have a high chance of getting one if you apply. It's just based on the college. And you can also, if you have any questions or concerns, you can also figure out who your program director would be. As an undergraduate, before I was making my final decisions, I was emailing the Wichita campus's program director and asking her my concerns and questions, and she completely understood my fears and concerns, and she answered all my questions in probably a very reasonable manner, and she was always available for me for any questions or concerns that I had. So I would just say, if you have any questions about a program, contact the program director, and they should be able to, if not answer them, lead you to the correct people to talk to.
I want to encourage some of the med students to answer that question also about funding, about how you guys are paying for school, and you know, what you're doing about, and if you're planning on doing any of the rural forgiveness for loans or anything like that too.
Yeah, so I'm actually part of the Kansas Medical Student Loan Program, and so the way that works is the state of Kansas will give you loans that covers all of your tuition and then provides a stipend every month while you're in medical school in exchange for 1 year of service for every year that you receive the loans while you're in medical school. So and the service has to be in a rural part of the state, which is, I would say, probably 98% of the state. There's only like 3 or 4 counties that you can't work in, and even in those counties, if you work like at a free clinic or the VA or teach at KU, I think all of those things are still count as your service. And so so there's that. I mean, it's 4 years worth of school for 4 years worth of work after residency, after you're ready to go on and start your career. And really, I mean, it's a great deal just because medical school is expensive. And if that's something that, like you want to work with underserved populations, or you want to work in a rural area, it's a fantastic opportunity. So, I mean, that's about all the insight, though, I have for paying for medical school.
I actually chose not to do the Kansas Student Loan Program. I may be interested in serving in Kansas, but I'm not. If you do that program, your residency, my understanding is your residencies are restricted to 4 or 5 general areas that are largely family practice, and they dropped surgery from that list. And I've always been kind of interested in surgery. I'm not sure if that's what I want to do yet, but I wanted to have that opportunity if that's something that I wanted to pursue. And you can also sign up for the Kansas Medical Student Loan Program after you graduate, and you can serve a year for a year, and they'll pay off afterwards. The only downside is that you accrue all that debt and extra stress throughout those 4 years, but I decided that if that's something that I want to do, I'll do it afterwards once I've made a decision to go to a residency in one of those specific fields of medicine that the Kansas Medical Student Loan Program will cover.
Yeah, and I figured I would add that the specialties that they limit you to are all primary care specialties. So family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics, and emergency medicine. And so, in addition to wanting to work in rural areas, you have to also want to practice one of those specialties. So, yeah.
I will add that there are also programs for PhD students to get loan forgiveness for certain situations. So there's always that option too if you want to do PhD over an MD or an MD PhD. So it doesn't limit you just to an MD. It isn't the Kansas, the same program that they're doing, but there are other programs. And there are even there's an NIH program also that does loan forgiveness for the amount of time that you work. So those are possibilities also.
I would also say, just real quick,
Okay,
sorry.
you want to say something else?
I was just going to also mention to kind of look around online because there are other forgiveness, like other institutions that do loan forgiveness that are not necessarily like linked with your medical school. There's a program, can't remember the name of it right off, but they do a forgiveness program that's a year and a half for every year that they pay back after you've finished your residency if you serve in an underserved area overseas. And so it's similar to the rural program in Kansas, but you can come from any medical school. You can, and if you go to one of their designated regions of the world that is largely underserved and needs physicians pretty badly, they'll repay your loans too. So there are other programs out there that you can look for and find for assistance once you graduate. But so that's just something to consider.
Are there any other questions about financial aid before I ask a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Have any of you considered doing a military scholarship while you were in medical school? And if so, why didn't you choose that?
I actually had looked into the military scholarship, but the reason that I chose not to do that was because I thought that I wanted to work in a rural area in Kansas anyway, and so the Kansas medical loans ended up being a much better option for me. But I know that the military option is a good option, and I know that other people that I know have considered it. I don't know anybody that is actually doing it, but I know it's definitely something to look into.
For me, the options as far as paying for things and doing different programs for loan forgiveness was definitely influenced by the fact that I'm married, and I have a lot of classmates who are married, and at the time I wasn't sure what my husband's plans were as far as completing his degree and for graduate school, and for us it was the most important part was being able to be together while I was in school and in residency. So I think that was definitely a factor that played into it. So.
Okay, I'll jump in with my question. I was interested, this is Bridget Chapin over at Haskell. I was interested in if you could talk about a little bit more about your relationship with the advisor that you came to work with in graduate school, leading up to graduate school, and then now that you're in graduate school. A little bit more about the importance of that and kind of connecting with them related to financial aid, et cetera, other opportunities, that kind of thing.
I'll go ahead and I'll field this one first. I actually started out with the advisor that I have for my master's program. We started out together during my bachelor's degree. I joined his lab as a sophomore, I believe it was, in my undergrad. So I've been with him for about 5 years now. And in the beginning, the relationship was vastly different than what we have now. He was actually the person that encouraged me to apply for the K-INBRE scholarship, and of course I won it. And during my junior year, I was also offered the STAR trainee position, which helped pay for my final year of my bachelor's, which was really great. But now that I'm in a master's degree, his role has become much different than it was during the bachelor's degree. Now it's not as much as a teaching role, it's more an advisory role. He really, I can't really say forces me, but he encourages me to really try to think for myself a lot more than I did as an undergraduate. Really try to pick my own direction for my project. I will say, though, in both undergraduate and graduate, he's been really integral in helping me make connections with different organizations, not only K-INBRE and other universities, but currently we're working with NASA, having to do with the graduate project that I chose to work on and they've made funding available for my project to be done. So in that respect, he's been extremely good in being both a teacher, advisor, and a friend. I mean, I've been with him, like I said, 5 years, almost 6 years now, and it's going to be very difficult when I decide what I'm going to do, either as a career or as my PhD, and have to go off and not have him there with me. So, but the relationship definitely does change as you get further along in your education.
I'd agree with what Tim said. As an undergraduate, my advisor's role was to help me pick which classes would help me succeed, and since he was also my advisor actually wasn't my research professor, but my research professor acted as my advisor a lot of the times. But going into graduate school, on the first day of orientation, I meet my advisor, and it's a completely different relationship, just because your advisor in graduate school wants you to explore options as a career. My advisor really doesn't really care what classes I take. He wants me to take things that will help me as my career, but he's not going to pick them for me. He wants me to do things on my own, but he's there to help me as time goes on. And now in my final year, we're working on capstone work, which is pretty much a giant project to graduate. And in the School of Public Health, you do a community project. So he helped me link up with a local public health department. And right now we are working with them to analyze Sedgwick County data to hopefully help them in the future. And it's kind of nice to have him there, but it's also like I've designed this instead of as an undergraduate where I went along with my research advisor's plans and he designed the project and I followed through. As a master's student, you're in charge, not your advisor. Your advisor's there to help you out and help you fix the snags along the way, but you're in charge. You're making the decisions, and he's there to help you. So the relationships really do change from undergraduate to graduate school.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement. Dr. Wynn and I have I've been in her lab for, this will be 6 years now. I started as a freshman undergrad. And they're right about it. There's a definite change, and this also goes back to whether you should do master's or PhD route as well. You go from undergrad where, I mean, it's mostly book studying. Yes, you have your research, but as my mentor always said, she was like, look, you need to focus on this. We'll research when you have time. But you get into the master's program and you have to focus on research. And it's also your research. It's not, there's no more hand-holding, there's no more, this is what you need to do. It's, okay, I will advise you. This is what you've done. Well, I would suggest this. It's much more you're designing. And we had that previous question about master's and PhD. Well, I would suggest master's just purely because it's a stepping stone. I mean, it allows you to get more feel for research, more feel for the more in-depth, more you designing your own project, before then going on to PhD, where you're pretty much going to be controlling it yourself. I mean, your mentor is still going to be there to advise, but as a PhD, you're going to be expected to already know everything. And the great thing about K-INBRE is it gets you started as an undergrad, but doing the master's is still great to transition just because you and your mentor, your relationship is going to be completely different. But yeah, I mean, it's nice having a mentor that I already knew. However, you have to make that adjustment, you and your mentor, so that you as an undergrad realize, well, it's no longer going to be the same way. You have to have an agreement and understanding, because you become such good friends by that time that sometimes it's hard to make that switch.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions for our group? We have about 10-15 minutes left. All right, I have a question. My question is, if you guys could talk a little bit about the transition between undergrad to graduate or medical school, like how studying is different, or how going to class is different, or stuff like that.
Okay, I'll represent med school here. Med school is extremely different from undergrad, in my opinion. I did not study as much as I definitely should have in undergraduate because I found it was, I was able to achieve the grades that I wanted to without as much effort into it. And I know that's terrible, but it was the truth, and I'm not going to lie to you. So, in medical school, it moves a lot faster. It's kind of like having a semester-long class crammed into 3 weeks. So if you can imagine how much studying it would take to be able to do that, and the grading system was really heavily focused on tests. Some of our tests make up 95% of our grade for an entire class, so it makes a difference. And I feel like they expect more detail out of you, so it takes a lot more discipline. Sometimes it's a rough transition to make, but you do. Everyone does. If you asked me this like a year and a half ago, I would tell you it's crazy, but it's manageable. So it's definitely different, but then again, it's a little bit more focused as to what my career was going to be versus undergrad. So.
I would agree with Catherine. It's definitely vastly different than what you experience as an undergraduate. I will say right now, don't expect a social life. I spend a lot more time focused on working on my research. Again, I'm not in the med school track, so my master's degree is very research oriented. So I spend most of my time either in my lab office or in the lab itself working on my project, or writing something up for my project, or writing a summary of my project to let my advisor know what's going on at some point. Again, it's very time consuming. The classes are pretty different as well. A lot of the courses that I'm taking now are kind of a mix between honors level undergraduates and then master's students as well. And those instructors really base the grades that we get on either writing term papers or taking essay exams. So it's pretty different than what you experience as an undergrad, filling out those little Scantron bubble sheets or answering multiple choice questions. You can expect to do a lot more studying. And again, like I said, don't expect any social life because this is not going to happen.
Like I said earlier, it just depends on which path that you choose. As a School of Public Health and being as a professional master's degree, we don't take a lot of tests. Like I was telling the med school students that came in earlier, I've probably taken 5 tests throughout my master's career, which is great for me. I honestly can say I'm not a very good test taker. I get really bad test anxiety. But what the School of Public Health does is they challenge you by making you come up with public health related research projects, focusing on them about half the semester through. So you'll have your public health studies for the first half of the semester, and then you'll do a project. And then your final grade will count on how you present that paper, or present the paper and present it orally to your teachers. And some even make you go as far as presenting it in a poster form as well. And that's really what K-INBRE has helped me, because as an undergraduate, I knew how to make a poster, and I knew kind of how to give an oral talk, but in my master's program, it's really been driven into you. This is how you're going to compose yourself, and you do it in every class. There's a few tests in certain classes, but it just depends on what track you're going into. I mean, I somewhat disagree with not having a social life, but it just depends on what you do, honestly. It just has to depend. And what you find fun. As an NPH student in the medical school, the med students and the pharmacy students go to school during the day, and so we don't have class until 4 o'clock in the evening. And so I've held down a part-time job my entire NPH career, and so I work during the days and then I go to school at nights, and so I understand it's just, you have to learn how to balance your time efficiently. As an undergrad, I mean, you're going to school, you have classes like Intro to Lit or rock science or anything like that. You're not going to have that as a master's level student. You're going to have things that pertain just to you and nothing else. So, I mean, you really have to make your time efficient. There's no bird courses is what you would call them. There's no shortcut classes where you can scrape by and still get an A. You have to put 100% of your effort in every class that you do.
In going back to what Jen said about time management, I always, especially when I'm teaching, I always like to impart a piece of advice that one of my faculty members gave me. It's not that you don't have enough time, because everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. It's just how you're managing that time. So one of the things that you have to realize when you move from undergraduate to graduate level, you have to alter the way that you manage your time. And so again, like I said, I don't personally have a social life because I spend almost all my time up in my office or in my lab, but it's different for everybody. So it kind of depends on the program that you're in. When I started my master's, they told me not to expect to have any extra time. So it could possibly be what field I chose. But again, time management becomes one of the most important things that you have to focus on when you move into your graduate program, or your PhD program for that matter. You have to be able to make time to go to class every day. You have to make time to study for your exams or your papers, and you definitely have to make time to write. That is a huge deal in your master's program. You have to learn how to write a scientific paper. So those of you that are in the undergraduate right now and you're taking classes where your instructors are telling you how to do that, pay really good attention.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay. My input on the whole, what's the difference is definitely undergrad was a lot of classes, a lot of tests, but as they said, the tests were bubble sheets. They were, what is our correct answer out of these four? Whereas the master's program, primarily I'm research, so I don't have a whole lot of classes. I think I have 1, maybe 2 classes a semester. But what classes I do have, I have to study, because it's not, give me the definition of a chloroplast, what does it do? It's, okay, how does this relate to this? I mean, you have to be able to truly understand what you're learning about. But it's definitely, as I said, time management, because, I mean, you're focusing on your research. Especially since I'm assuming that when we're talking about the masters, that most of you are more going to be research-based masters rather than, I know there are a lot of programs at masters that aren't research-based. But yeah, so it's a definite shift in how you're doing that. And I am going to say, I don't have much of a social life, but every couple of weeks, at least once a month, I have to go do something, because for me, if I don't, I'm going to be the crazy person. And so I have to go hang out with my friends for a night, relax, chill, and then everything's good.
Could one of you guys in med school maybe talk about how classes are different than they are in undergrad?
Okay, I'll do it. All right. So in KU at least, and I think that's what I can speak for considering Kansas. With KU, they have 3 different campuses, and because we have 3 different campuses, we use a lot of technology as far as delivering lectures and being able to record them. So we have 3 hours of lecture per day. Occasionally we have some small group activities in the afternoon that could be histology, problem-based learning where you go through actual simulated cases, etc. Class is different in that there is a lot of it, but it's the same amount every day, and you don't actually have to attend class. We have all of our lectures generally from Kansas City, and you can attend if you'd like to, but you could also get them 20 minutes after they've occurred online, and then you can watch them at increased speed, which is wonderful. So that's different, but it may seem like if you're left to your own devices to podcast every day, it could be easy to get behind, and it is, and it's a mistake everyone makes. That makes it seem like we have a lot more flexible schedule, but we really don't. You have to stay current, because otherwise you could end up 15 hours of lecture behind in the course of a week. So it's different, but it also requires a lot of self-discipline. Also, Something that that was mentioned is that in some of the graduate programs, the time can allow you to have a job. In medical school, it is not true. Actually, the administrators heavily discourage you from having a job because of how much time it takes to cover all the material and how quickly we are given examinations. So don't expect to have a job at all in medical school, and if you do, you're going to not have it for very long because of the time commitment with it. So that's where financial aid really comes into it. And it's not forever, but that's definitely where it comes in. So.
I'll also add to that when I heard it was 3 hours of lecture a day, I was like, that seems reasonable. Like, I ought to be able to get through 3 hours of lecture material pretty quick and get most of that taken care of and out of the way. But we just had our pulmonary exam a couple weeks ago, and one of the lectures right before of the last week of our pulmonary module was over 220 slides in 50 minutes. And it's just like, it's just mind-blowing. So like the amount of information you go through in the hour also increases. So don't expect to see like 20 slides in 50 minutes. And like that's not really how they're going to operate in medical school. So 3 hours of lecture is well over a day's worth of work to get all that figured out and get all that memorized. And so don't let the 3 hours make you think, oh, that shouldn't be too bad, because it definitely builds up quick, especially if you get behind like she mentioned, and it's definitely plenty to keep you busy all day. So
I'm going to cut us off now because it's time, but I want to thank everybody that participated in coming and speaking, and if you have any questions, you can contact me or your campus coordinator, and we can get any other questions answered. So thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you to all of the panel members. You did a fantastic job. You had a lot of good information for all of us.